Today on CityCast Nashville, MNPD is currently testing a new emergency response program in Madison that uses drones to respond to certain 911 calls. WPLN Metro reporter Cynthia Abrams joins us to explain how it works, why some residents and activists are raising concerns about surveillance, and what questions we should all be asking as this technology takes flight. It's Monday, June 8th. I'm Marie Cecile Anderson, and this is what Nashville's talking about. For people who haven't been following the story, what exactly is Nashville's Drones as First Responder program, and what exactly happens when a drone is dispatched to a 911 call?
Good question. Questions I also had. So the Drones as First Responder program is something that MNPD just launched. It's a pilot program that they are testing out for what they're saying is the next 30 to 45 days. It's these drones that are being deployed off of the Madison precinct around a 2-mile radius to respond to primarily emergency phone calls, so like emergency police and fire calls. But they are also saying that they are being used in missing persons cases, significant traffic crashes, and kind of arriving on the scene. I did have questions about like how this actually works, especially because as I'm sure we'll get into, there was some kind of questions around cameras on these drones and what that actually was like. And so I asked MNPD kind of the purpose of these drones, and they told me that they work similarly to their safety cameras that they have positioned around town. As they arrive on the scene, they are able to provide a visual for responding officers.
So we all heard the mayor on This Is Nashville last week saying that these cameras on the drones were not operational. And you're saying that once they arrive on the scene, that's when they're turned on?
Yes. So I was also a little confused about, as I think many people were, about kind of like, what does that mean if the cameras aren't on? How can you use a drone if there aren't cameras?
I mean, I'm not an expert on drones, but I will say around COVID time, I purchased a drone and I was flying my drone around my neighborhood.
Okay,
Scary. I shouldn't be flying a drone, first off, but there was a camera and it was on the entire time because that's how you navigated it.
I honestly didn't have a good understanding of how drones worked. I haven't really engaged with one ever. But, as we heard on This Is Nashville, Blake our host of This Is Nashville, pushed back a little bit and was kind of like, how does that work? And the mayor said that there are location services that can navigate the drone. What MNPD said to me when I did ask, like, are there cameras? Are they being used? There are cameras. They are being used. They said that recording does not begin until the drone is approaching the scene of the call, and then recording is initiated.
Well, are there any benefits of these drones as responders?
MNPD is saying that the benefit is they're really pointing to response times. And we do know that MNPD has had issues with response times in the past. A 2023 analysis by the Community Oversight Board, which then existed, found that shooting response times had tripled between 2020 and 2023. The MNPD pushed back on that a little bit. They did a recalculation themselves, which countered that estimation, showing that response times still had increased, just not quite as much. There was a video released with this drone launch, and Chief John Drake talks about how these can have kind of like 1 to 2 minute response times, which is significantly improved on what police response times typically look like.
Do we have an understanding of why Madison was chosen as the test area, and what do we know about how the boundaries for this 2-mile radius were drawn?
I still have some questions about that as well. Listeners may have seen Councilmember Emily Benedict's video about kind of questions around this. But of course, as you say, the radius around the Madison precinct, MNPD has posted a image of the map, which generally looks like a circle, but then it has a little piece kind of cut out of the bottom. So the rest of it is perfectly circular. And then there's this little carve out. That carve out is District 7, which Emily Benedict represents. And she posted in her video kind of indicating that she feels like the administration knew that she would have pushed back on this program, and that was kind of why she was indicating that that may have been why that district was cut out. I do not yet know for certain kind of how that map was determined.
Yeah, the map does look like a little shark bite was taken out of it, so it doesn't include her district. So there's already been major pushback from some community groups and surveillance watchdogs. What are the biggest concerns they're raising about this pilot program, and how are MNPD and the mayor's office responding to those criticisms?
I think that the biggest backlash point I've heard is that this pilot didn't go through the Metro Council. It was kind of lacking that oversight element that we have seen, in recent years, that the council is interested in creating oversight over police surveillance programs. They are interested in pushing back on some of those being implemented in Nashville. We have seen them reject surveillance systems in recent years. It's kind of a shift from some rubber stamping we used to see of police programs being implemented. So the pushback we're hearing is that this program did not go through the Metro Council. There is a piece of Nashville's code, a surveillance statute, that requires surveillance programs to be approved and be considered by the council. And what the mayor is saying is that Metro Legal assessed this program and found that it qualified under an exemption that's written into that statute, so it did not have to go through the council.
What did that exemption actually say?
So I can read it to you. This section, quote, "This section shall not apply to acquisition or use of surveillance technology by or on behalf of law enforcement that is used on a temporary basis for the purpose of a criminal investigation supported by reasonable suspicion or pursuant to a lawfully issued search warrant or under exigent circumstances as defined in case law." Metro Legal's director told me that the drones as first responders are only deployed in response to calls for service and do not record until approaching the site where service is requested. Metro Legal believes this limited temporary use of the DFRs related to criminal investigation meets the exception that I just read, allowing it to not require council approval. I am hearing from members of the community who are against this implementation that the fact that MNPD says it will also be utilizing the drones to respond to traffic crashes seems to contradict that exemption. So I will be curious to hear their response to that.
And this sounds very similar to how Fusus was first launched here in Nashville, correct?
Correct. We saw that Fusus was implemented without council approval. There was a lot of public pressure. Once that was kind of brought to light, eventually Fusus was pulled, went through council approval. That was a very drawn out process that ultimately resulted in a narrow vote that rejected implementation of Fusus. So we have, again, kind of seen the council's willingness to reject surveillance programs.
What opportunities have residents had to weigh in on this pilot program, and what information is available to the public about how it's being used?
Good question. I think that a lot of the weighing in I've heard from the community has happened post-implementation. I think that's, again, tied to it not going through the Metro Council, where it would have been required to be on public hearing. If something's on public hearing, it's, this specific time for the council to hear residents share their thoughts on it. I have heard people weigh in, at the Metro Council meeting, at the Metro Human Relation Commission meeting, there was a public comment and discussion around this. MNPD has kind of a website debriefing some frequently asked questions around this program. They have a video with Chief John Drake kind of talking about what they see as the benefits. I am curious, if there's a world where this would be pulled similar to what we saw with Fusus and then be required to go back through the council. I would anticipate that we would see a lot of public commenters.
Looking for the perfect summer night out in Nashville? Don't miss Bluegrass Night at the Hermitage on June 12th, part of the new Roots and Rhythms Americana concert series presented by Wilson Bank and Trust. Doors open at 5 with a special pre-concert ceremony at 6:30 and live music beginning at 7. Hosted by Craig Havikhurst, producer and co-host of the weekly bluegrass show, The Old Fashioned. The evening will feature live performances by Frank Sullivan and Dirty Kitchen and Sacred Hollow. The event will also include a special presentation honoring Ed Snodderly as 2026 Roots and Rhythms Legacy Award recipient. Bring a blanket or lawn chair and enjoy live bluegrass, local food and drinks, and one of the most unique outdoor concert settings in Tennessee. Tickets are $20 for general admission, $10 for Hermitage members, and kids 13 and under get in for free. VIP tickets are also available for $50 and include lounge access, priority seating, a private bar, and more. Bluegrass Night is just the start of the summer-long Roots and Rhythms series at the Hermitage. Get your tickets today at thehermitage.com. If your windows are drafty, noisy, or just plain outdated, it might be time for an upgrade. And guess what? You are in luck, because Window Nations is running its Buy 4 Windows, Get 4 free sale going on now. Introducing Illumilite windows exclusively for Window Nation. They're designed to give you triple pane performance with the look and weight of a double pane window. Their windows help improve energy efficiency, reduce outside noise by 15% or more, and add more light and brightness to your home. They're also easier to open, clearer to see through, and built to keep your home comfortable year-round, all backed by a limited lifetime warranty. Plus, Window Nation measures 3 times, installs in as little as 1 day, and offers more than 1,500 styles and colors. With decades of experience and millions of windows installed nationwide, you can trust the job gets done right the first time. Don't wait to put an end to your window problems. Schedule a fast, free consultation now at windownation.com. Can residents see the flight logs of these drones?
They can. I believe they are on the MNPD dashboard. Manon Hall, who was at the Metro Human Relations Commission meeting commenting on this program, talked about kind of what he had seen in those logs.
And then how are we led to believe they're going to measure their success or failure of this pilot program?
That's a good question. We have already seen they have made one arrest with the Drone as First Responder program. They sent out a release that it was a result of the DFR program. It was a case of a domestic violence situation. The suspect fled the scene afterwards, and then the DFR identified that person's location and alerted ground officers to go arrest him. I am curious kind of what MNPD's metrics will be. I would surmise that based on that kind of press release they sent out after that arrest, that they are weighing it based on kind of how it is aiding officers in making arrests and responding to emergency calls.
There are allegations from some anti-surveillance watchdogs that the drones are spending more time responding to the calls in majority-minority neighborhoods than majority-white neighborhoods. What's your take on their concern?
This is something I think we are hearing from a lot of different advocates who are advocating against surveillance technology. This is something we heard from Councilmember Emily Benedict in that social media post she made. I would imagine this is something that we would see a lot of council members kind of express concern about if it was brought before them. And I think that it does create questions about why this area of Nashville was selected to pilot the program. One organizer, Kelly Chan, who I spoke with, said, quote, that we need to be incredibly careful of where we're implementing this stuff. And she went on to say that, quote, I think we know enough about what has happened historically in this country to know that we're never going to see drones trialed in Belmead or Green Hills or wealthier, wider areas. So I think it is something of note that this area of Madison was selected to pilot this program. It's a pretty small radius, 2 miles. I would be curious to learn more about why that area was the subject of the pilot.
When these drones collect video or other data, who owns it, who has access to it, and how long is it kept?
To be totally honest, I am not 100% certain. I think it has been said that footage not saved as evidence is permanently deleted after 7 days. At the Metro Human Relations Commission meeting, I heard commissioners kind of talk about concern over whether or not this is true, just given that there can be legal situations that arise from policing and arrests, and you don't necessarily know when you will need footage. So there seems to be some questions over whether or not this is true, that this footage actually would be deleted.
And it's worth mentioning right now, folks, that our executive producer, Whitney Pasterik, is a commissioner and also had very similar questions as well during that meeting last week. From what we understand, the drones are being provided through a partnership with Skydio.
Correct.
Seems like a silly name. Skydio? What do we know about this third-party company, and what do they gain from these pilot programs?
So Skydio is a robotics and drone manufacturer. I did a little poking around their website. The Drone as First Responder program is kind of one of those things listed. As far as what they gain, of course, they are a manufacturer. They are a company. I think they have a vested interest in getting drones purchased. Something of note to me that as I was kind of exploring that website, there does seem to be a partnership they have with Axon. It's advertised on the site as a way to deploy a Skydio drone to any officer who requests one with a press of a button on their Axon body-worn camera.
Wait, is that Fusus Axon?
Yes, exactly. So if you might remember, Axon is who acquired Fusus, kind of in the midst of the Fusus debate.
Oh.
Yeah. So just something it caught me by surprise when I take a step back. These are all surveillance tools. I think maybe it's not that surprising that different policing surveillance tools have partnerships with one another, but caught my eye.
Nashville is not the first city to experiment with drone first response programs. What have other cities reported about their effectiveness, and where have we seen public backlash or concerns emerge?
The Drone as First Responder program is in use in many different cities. That was kind of something that MNPD has broadly said as they are citing why they are pursuing this program. I think they said it launched in California in around 2018 and has been in use since. It's also in use in, cities like New York and Los Angeles. I have seen some backlash in other places towards drone implementation, not necessarily over Skydio drones. I was seeing that in Detroit. There was a lot of public pushback over a direct drone surveillance program called Flock. They're a little bit different than these Skydio drone as first responder drones. They are unmanned. And something interesting to me was that Detroit actually has had a drone as first responder program in place. They were looking to kind of up the drone usage through this new program. And a lot of community members kind of pushed back on that effort, but the pilot was approved.
I also read that Vanderbilt uses drones. Do we know what they're doing over there with the drones, or?
I actually am not 100% certain about how they are utilizing them.
Yeah, I couldn't find that either.
Okay.
I thought that was interesting, as well as Mount Juliet.
Yeah, that is something MNPD was also kind of pointing to. Vanderbilt, Mount Juliet, MNPD is saying they're successful. Of course, MNPD does have some partnerships with Vanderbilt, but yeah.
All right, last question. Thank you, Cynthia. If you're a Nashville resident who isn't following every Metro Council meeting, what are the biggest unanswered questions you think people should be paying attention to as this pilot program moves forward and could possibly come to their neighborhood too?
I think that as has come up in this discussion, there are kind of still a lot of question marks over how this program is being implemented, how data it collects is being saved, why the area that it is being piloted in was selected. I think that those are really good questions for your council members. I think that those questions are things that I am definitely looking to get answers to. And yeah, I think kind of paying attention to see if a program like this does end up going back before the council, kind of what their reaction to this is.
Do you think drones are the wave of the future?
I don't know. I feel like I don't know what is the wave of the future, but it does, drones have a lot of AI integration into them. And
these are the questions we should be asking then. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So a lot of unknown.
A lot of
All
unknowns.
Right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that listeners are then empowered to reach out to their council members and ask them these questions as well.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's all for today here on CityCast Nashville. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Nashville neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell your friends? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our CityCast Nashville newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Toodles!